Real Progressives. Tonight I am joined by Mr. Jason Noble. He is in Michigan, running for Senate District 19. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, Jason.
Hi. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Jason and I have talked on Messenger a few times, and he is quite humorous, which I like. I like somebody with a sense of humor. You guys know that. So I was actually reading your bio when I was doing some research, and I saw that you have done some substitute teaching in the past. What typically did you teach, and what grades?
I taught all grades, kindergarten to 12th, but I taught all subjects as well. But I always preferred middle school and high schoolers. It's easier to talk back and forth. I'm pretty well versed in multiple subjects, so if it was history, if it was biology, I could fake my way through it. We could do the square with the dominant recessive stuff, Usually surprised the teachers that I worked for because they were like, "Oh, hey, thanks for actually continuing the lesson." Hated the stuff where I had to watch, Planet Earth the same over and over and over again.
Yeah. That's cool.
Like an autodidact or something. I don't know. What do they call that? That where you know a lot of stuff.
I know what you mean. like a Rain Man.
Yeah, a little socially less awkward, although that didn't do me any favors.
I was reading part of your background, which is something I love to do. I love to learn where people come from, what their stories are, to see what kind of candidate that they would make. And on your page, you actually discuss losing your dad at 1 to a car accident. And how, you grew up with a single mom and, the basically how proud you are of her for doing that. Can you share a little bit of what that was like?
Well, we were fortunate because when my dad died in the car accident, his brother is a lawyer, and he helped set us up with some help from the insurance and things like that. But I mean, the day-to-day stuff, once that ran out from getting a new house, where we moved into a better neighborhood for us, I saw her go to work every day. Actually, to that point, my grandparents lived literally a mile away, fortunately, and they would come over and get me off to school. And I didn't see my mom in the morning, and then they'd pick me up from the bus, take me home. She'd get me an hour or two later. So, I mean, it was a matter of having a single parent who had different jobs because she didn't go to college. She tried some college, but, always trying to maintain a first shift job, which probably might have been easier back then when shifts weren't so gig related. But yeah, I mean, I saw her when she'd come home, we'd have dinner, whether it was macaroni and hot dogs or something a little more elaborate. She was just a really hard worker, is a really hard worker. Still a little transient on the job stuff, but, she's doing what she can. She's remarried since 98 I have a good stepdad and a half sister. So, but about her, I mean, she's just a really strong influence. Despite education issues, I love my mom dearly, but she had her own challenges, and she still just was a practical human being who went to work every day and took care of me, and that growing up. Now looking back, I really see the value in that, having kids. I probably didn't see the value in that back then.
And I'm sure as a candidate, you look at things differently as well. You do talk about income inequality, given your experience. How, why is that on your platform? How does that relate? Why do you want that for other people?
Right. I mean, from that experience, sure. I would say that time frame, I was born in 84. So let me say that the economy at large was probably better They say it was better during the Clinton years. I was a kid, so I don't know for sure. But now I just see more and more despair. I know that, your CEOs of your major corporations are making thousands more than their employees. We see people having to choose between medicine and, paying for their kids' lunch at school. Being a substitute, that's probably where I saw a lot of it. Being a parent, I can see a lot of it. I mean, my wife and I, we're not loaded by any means. This is an apartment, where mortgages are cheaper but harder to get because of credit, where rent is inflated and you can't afford a single bedroom apartment on, anyone's 40-hour-a-week salary at minimum wage, nationwide minimum wage, where, my friends who are well off as I am, which I'm not, I want to see that fixed. I want to see that better. I want better for me. It's a selfish move. And it's also a public service move, I guess. I mean, I just know people who are dealing with this stuff. And the people that I don't know, I'm willing to look outside my own circle and look at your Flint, Michigan, and their economic issues, which are outside the water thing too. More than just the water, they have economic issues. I see the problems happening in downtown Grand Rapids, where I'm from, Battle Creek originally. I just know these cities aren't doing well. They're more poverty, impoverished areas are sort of redlined together. That still happens from the 1930s or something. I see just awful disparity between communities that are minority mainly, but centered around poverty, and other communities we could say mainly white, and then a huge disparity between all of that together, and what's going on economically with I would call it the oligarchy, the American oligarchy. So.
Absolutely. How far distance wise are you from Flint?
Opposite sides of the state, really. I'm about an hour and a half from Lake Michigan, so like on the far left side, the west side. Yeah. One.
That's got to be hard, for you being in Michigan and seeing all of the corruption and seeing how your state, so many people in government in your state are just not caring about what people are going through. Can you name anything that that we may not know, something that's going on, humanitarian wise, that people are helping these people in this horrible circumstance?
Well, I don't know if it's on the negative side. I don't know if it's getting any PR outside of the state, but in the state, the governor just approved Nestle to be pumping out more water. I think it's around 450 gallons a minute for the same $200 per year. And we just signed on to stop Flint's bottled water program, which is heinous. Just the messaging there for it to be done in the literal same week, I think, week or two for sure. I don't know when everything was signed. It's ridiculous. The optics on it are just stupid. I'll be the first to say. But I think that what's also not getting a lot of attention is, just an hour ago or so, some people from Flint literally stopped I-69, that's the highway east-west, stopped traffic at the highway. There's just Facebook videos on it just now, and I don't think that's going to get reported on. And I think on the side of getting attention, which it needs attention, I think that's something that's probably not getting a lot of attention. I think a bunch of residents from Flint actually just flooded the Capitol too, in fact. So I don't know if that's going to get any PR or not, but any publicity, but I hope it does. I'm really hurt by the fact that we would do that to Flint, which is already facing hard economic times. And I really want my fellow Michiganders and anyone in any state to see that if they'll do that to Flint, what's to stop it from happening here? You know, just because I'm in a more rural area, doesn't mean that it wouldn't happen here. My own local area, I think the lead testing, they do it yearly. I think it was what the limit, the federal limit is like 15.15 parts per million, whatever that 15 metric is. And we're at 11 or 12 right now, which is interesting, at the last test. That's what they test. Of course, that doesn't count what goes into homes and everything else. They can only test the source. So those are things that aren't getting hammered out. I know nationwide there was an article I think I saw recently from Bridge Magazine or someone that had 3,000 sites nationwide that probably have lead that's near or too high. So it's a problem nationwide. Nobody knows enough about, and we're not doing enough about.
Absolutely. We have Mark Bignell on here. He is a candidate in Michigan as well. Hey, Mark. I've had him on. If you have any info, what's that?
Mark and I are friends. Mark and I have been bouncing ideas off of each other for a while now, so he's got the dirt. Yeah, Mark, if you have anything and could send it to me on, what's going on in the past hour, I would love it. 'Cause, yeah, Jason, you're right. That shit doesn't get enough exposure. That's why independent media is so awesome. So you also have, in addition, so you have living wage. It looks like that your minimum wage is $9.25. Is that correct? Yeah.
See, I'm in Pennsylvania, and it's $7.25.
The federal level. Yeah.
Right. So now you do talk about Fight for 15. Is that a minimum, or is that the goal?
I think it's both. I think we should tie the wage to the cost of living. Now, I'm open to what that means, and I'm open to discussion on that, because I just don't think the state and federal, if we want to talk about that, they're just not discussing the issue. They're not competing ideas out there and trying to go back and forth and figure out what the solution is. I think that it should be tied to the cost of living with caveats, like if the unemployment rate was above X percent, maybe that year. I think Colorado actually has had minimum wage decreases. A buddy of mine lives there. He was telling me that in the past 5 years, tying it to the cost of living has actually made it fluctuate up, down. Although I would also, I'm offering that as a detracting note, but offering to say that even if the minimum wage was tied to the cost of living and hypothetically went down, not every business is going to demote their already employed employees down. It's a net good that should be tied into the living wage or into the cost of living. That's long-term going to help people, especially when people stay in jobs and have less of a gig economy mentality and less of a corporate gig mentality as well. Right.
One of our RP family members here, he just pointed out that given inflation and such, it would be about $22 an hour. That's kind of what, our fear is that Fight for 15, okay, cool, but by the time it gets to that, could be like $30 an hour, so that's definitely a concern. Do you support a federal job guarantee?
Well, I mean, it's federal, so I'm running for state. I would support it. I'm just not sure, what the ins and outs are there. I support anything that's going to go towards helping more people get covered, get employment, have gainful employment. We're going to have to, eventually talk about things like a UBI with the way, the computers are taking over jobs. I just can't get over that one. But yeah, I'm for just about anything that's going to have a net positive value on our state and our nation.
The downfall about UBI is that when you look at studies by other countries, they give a set amount to everyone, and it's about $675. Now, with that, what's the encouragement to work? You're already getting it.
Well, you're talking about per week or month, or what are you talking about there?
For per month.
Per month, okay.
They cut off Social Security, Medicare, all that stuff, because everybody gets the same. So there's tons of jobs that aren't being filled. Whereas the federal job guarantee says, if you're unemployed and you want to work, we will get you a job, period. We will find something. So it's just much more advantageous. To the unemployment rate goes down tremendously. Poverty goes down tremendously. The economy boosts. So it's kind of like people aren't in the situation where they're looking for a job, essentially.
Yeah, we need to force wage competition. So, the Right to Work Act that basically busted up unions, and both federal and state ability to force wage competition. That's really what a union does, for instance. And so what you're talking about would be a grand union. Just a big national undertaking that would make sure anyone who wants to work has a job. You work for a union, and you do your job. They do their best to find you a new one. It's the same principle, and having a base in which to compete with makes wage competition. So I'm all for that. The thing about the UBI is that $675 a month, at least in U.S. dollars, isn't really going to cut it. While that would be nice, and it may allow you to take away some social nets, I don't know, some safety nets, maybe. I think you'd still have to work with that. But the point would be that you could count groceries, for instance, covered. That would be nice. But I'm not tied to the UBI. I'm not sure that it's feasible. I'm open to whatever's feasible. As long as we're working towards this one goal of covering more people, getting more people jobs, getting more people a living wage. Getting back to the idea that a family of four like mine could survive on a single income, could have their insurance, could have state-funded schools where my kid could pay their tuition from a summer job, things like that. That's what I want to work towards. However we get there, I don't really have any bones about it. I just want to get there.
Speaking of school and your kids going to college, how do you feel about free college tuition?
Yes. I had so I would like to not have had college tuition. The amount of it is just keeping kids from getting homes. We're partially kept from getting homes because of college debt. That's part of what probably ruined our credit. And frankly, my college degree didn't help the most, like it should have. I have a bachelor's, and, I'm not pulling down big nums like I should. But that's a lot of people.
Absolutely. Let's see what else you have here. You talk about repealing Act 51. Can you discuss what that is?
Sure. There's a link in the website, too, that takes you to a simplified version of Act 51 to sort of help you understand it. If you're not a wonk, you still have to understand some. But basically, it gives road funding about 40% to highways, 40% to the state, and like 20% to the counties, roads and things like that. It has zero bearing on the condition of the road, on the need of the area. There are numerous flaws with just throwing money at a brick wall, like you were throwing water at a brick wall, and just hoping some of it sticks. It's just not targeted. I know government funding. I believe federal government funding that states receive usually favors building new highways because that's shinier and more politically advantageous to say we built, this new road that goes from here to here. But we should be focusing on repairing what we have. We have plenty of roads to get around. We need to fix the ones we have. And sidebar, if we would fund that, we would be funding jobs as well, administrative and practical construction jobs. I believe the state could actually instigate its own wage competition by using the prevailing wage, making sure we pay contractors at least $15 an hour. And the private sector is going to say, hey, we can't hire enough people. We don't have, where are the people we're supposed to hire? Oh, they're all working at the state. They're making $15 an hour. I guess we need to offer a competitive wage. And I'm sorry that, the CEO may not get a new Beamer. Oh, well.
Yeah, absolutely. On kind of on that line, you do also have renewable energy on your platform. How do you guys have a lot of solar in your area? Like, what's your area like as far as green goes?
Well, I love Michigan because we have a lot of forest, and that is not an understatement. We have a lot of trees, and we get a lot of heat, a lot of sun. Our summers are nice, although this winter won't let go. But I think that our contribution will likely be more in wind and possibly water. It's going to depend. I would like to figure out a way to power with, rivers and things like that, with the lakes, if we can do it without interrupting the ecosystems in there, that kind of stuff. Solar, sure. I mean, whatever we can do. I think going into renewables, again, creates more jobs, gives us more economic stability, less reliant on other things, on outside power and whatnot. So, yeah.
Okay, right on. Something you talk about in several ways is getting money out of politics. So you've decided not, like pretty much every progressive, it's like a litmus test. If you take, that money, you're not a progressive. So you have agreed not to take any, money from corporations and what have you. Why is that something that you're passionate about? Why did you agree not to do that?
I don't think it's practical to owe a for-profit corporation for my job. So I don't want to have special interests. You all, my Michiganders, are my special interests. That's all I want. I just don't see it as a challenge. Although I don't think anyone's going to offer me tons of money, so I'm not really too worried about it. It wasn't a difficult stand in that respect, but I still wouldn't do it if they offered it to me. If in my area, a nonprofit environmental organization, something like that, offered me some, I probably would, because that's something in my platform. But that's as far as I go. If we're talking about for-profit, super PAC money, things like that, no. Union money, if I got someone at a union wanted to contribute to my campaign, yes. I mean, that's a crowd-funded type thing. I think that's a very Bernie standpoint from what I few nurses unions and unions. I'd be okay with that. But I want to build credibility in my community that will use their money wisely, and also it's a little give and take. People want to see what you're going to do with their contribution before they give a contribution, so to speak. And it's right to be skeptical. So I want to offer that as a solution. So I think these days, in social media terms, it's a lot easier to get your face across to a lot of different places. So I really don't think it's even a necessity for most people anyway. It shouldn't be.
How do you think that basically Congress and Senate and everything, how do you think it would change if it suddenly was that nobody would accept corporate money? What do you think that would do to our political climate?
I don't know. I think the Koch brothers wouldn't be here.
Darn.
Shoot. Yeah, I think we would see representation of people. I mean, I just don't understand what the big damn deal is about that. I think we would. There's some good information about how much time politicians spend fundraising, and it's abysmal when they could be voting practically. And when they're not doing that, in Michigan, they're voting to make English the official language of the state, or the state legislature is going after unemployment recipients due to an error for a year, and only to be told that they were wrong in going after the individuals. We're making, at the state level, so many mistakes. And first and foremost, get the money out. And second, make votes that count and stop fooling around. And I want to say a worse word than fooling, but stop fooling around.
Oh, I've said that plenty of times on here.
Oh, good. I want to.
I'm not a candidate, though. Yeah, I mean, I had Congressman Rokana on my show, and he came up with legislation that says for people in Congress, they agreed not to take any money from corporations from that day forward, including Roe. There were 6 people who signed it. Yeah. Not nearly enough. Now, I forget who it was. I think it was Mark. Yes, Mark Babian. He brought up lobbyists, which you also talk about on your platform. So that he had the point that they'd put more money into lobbyists then. Oh,
yeah. Yep. Lobbying is a... Go ahead.
Do you think that like Citizens United is kind of like the roots to like pretty much all the problems?
I'd be remiss to say it's the root of all problems, but it's a big one. I mean, I think it's a big mistake. Money is property, not speech. Speech is speech. This is speech. This is free speech, but money is not speech, and we should not be trading property in unlimited sums with loopholes, with PACs. Yeah, I obviously think that that's probably what's keeping people tied to those big donors and paying attention to them and not to everyday people.
Right. Bernie said, one of my favorite quotes he said was, having, winning an election by something like Citizens United is not winning an election, it's buying an election.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Definitely. Something else you talk about on your page is Medicare for All. So what are your thoughts on the healthcare system and where you would like to see it go from here?
Well, I really do think it's a federal issue at its heart, because Massachusetts is basically the only state to achieve it. And honestly, the problem is when any one state, and I mean one state because it really won't be all states, you definitely won't see a lot of other states jump on right away. You can have private insurance companies undercut those costs temporarily, the same way in retail, a new store comes in to undercut the mom and pop shop to get them to pull up stakes. It's the same idea. Insurance companies can temporarily offer lower rates to undercut state-funded ones. So I'll say that. I don't think that that's completely feasible, but I am for it, especially if it can be done. I think it's a federal issue, because I think that federally, if they were to go full Bernie and wipe out the industry, the insurance industry at large, that would obviously, I mean, what other competition is there? There isn't. We would be under the Canadian system, essentially. Or Abdul, for instance, has said he would, pressure our legislators, our representatives to DC to sign on to universal health. Would if we could have regional representatives and senators, as we call them in Michigan, if we could have them sign on to that and say, guys, this is the way we need to go. Let's do it. I would be for that. Practically speaking, what we could do within the state, there are state-funded programs that we could expand, and I am all for that. The more people we cover, the more kids we cover, the more elderly people we cover, the lower the age that we make, to get some of these benefits, and the higher the age we raise till we're just start meeting in the middle. And the only people left that aren't covered are able-bodied, working Michiganders, and then we close that. That would be great. That's the goal. So I would love to vote for like one bill that says we're going this way and that's it. I don't think that's going to happen, but if it did, great. But if it doesn't, I would still vote for anything that's going to go towards that next step and keep pushing towards that end goal. As I said on my website, every one of those things that I underlined is, I will support, or I will craft legislation or support anything that leads to this end.
The apprehension I have, I agree, it's definitely not going to happen like right away. It's not feasible. Something I think that shows us that is California. We were so close, and then a Democrat actually voted it out, and we were so damn close. And that's a pretty damn progressive state. So,
yeah.
And basically we kind of just need one state, and then we can, use it as an example. But yeah, that kind of was discouraging. Mark, you're killing me. Stop. Mark Fabian, I swear, I can't take it. Do you guys have a lot of for-profit prisons?
I don't actually know the direct number, and I probably should know more, but I am against for-profit prisons, especially knowing that they have stipulations that they have to keep their beds full, and that just really encourages recidivism. The idea that they don't want to offer any kind of rehabilitation, and they want people to come back, they need people to come back, and frankly, it incentivizes arrests. There are legitimate people who have legitimately been arrested for good reason and need to be put away, but there are also times when we see incentivized incarceration just because, you could take a look at a school that has a resource officer, and there's a kid in there and he acts absolutely bonkers, and they take him in for indecent whatever. I've heard these stories, and then it just starts the kid in juvie, and then it starts this prison pipeline, and we're suddenly incentivizing locking more people up. It's ridiculous. The state level, the federal level, it's absolutely abysmal. I can't believe how we have more people locked up than any other country. And this is the land of the free. It honestly angers me.
Yeah, it's incredible. And of course, they're typically Black and brown people who suffer the most.
Yeah.
Oh, Mark Bignell said one prison is shutting down soon. He saw the story today, so that's good.
Awesome. Cool.
That's one of the main reasons a lot of people wouldn't vote for Hillary, because her and Bill have a lot of money in those for-profit prisons. So that's definitely a deal breaker for a lot of people. Are you familiar with MMT?
A little.
modern monetary theory. So
Yeah.
basically, in essence, federal taxes don't fund spending. So anytime you hear them talking about the debt and things like that, acting like we don't have money to accomplish the things that we're trying to get via healthcare or college or any of the things we're trying to fight for. They have a habit of saying it's not feasible. It's going to add to the debt. And if we do that, we're going to have to cut this. But in reality, we print our own money and we don't have to worry about any kind of debt. We can accomplish whatever we need. So what we'll do is, I know that Mark typically sends like a short video and short article about MMT to all the candidates. But it's definitely something to look into, because when, your constituents say we can't pay for it, you have the knowledge that that's just not accurate.
Well, go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead.
I was just going to say, yeah, the idea that we print our money, well, that the federal government prints our money, I get all of that, and I think that the lockdown that the GOP put on balancing the budget is rigid, inflexible, and frankly unnecessary to a point. It's just like my idea about the cost of living, minimum wage thing. We should have caveats to that. If we're going to have a balanced budget, there should be, flexibility built in where you can go over some, like I think the federal government, for instance, can go over 1.5 trillion or something like that. That's some flexibility. It's not as hardline as a lot of GOP politicians federally would want you to believe. State-wise, probably the same thing. It wouldn't hurt to spend some to make some. I'm not big on the theory because theories are theories, and I think I read an excellent article from Washington Post about how it has and hasn't held true historically, but I know that the more we have of something, the more money, the more bills we're printing out, the less it's technically worth. But that's okay to a point, because candy isn't a penny anymore. We just have to deal with that. Milk is not $1 anymore. Gas is not $1 anymore. It's $3 now. And if we are increasing we have to be proactive with our wages. So about printing the money, maybe, but instead of seeing the cost of a burger, a gallon of milk, and a gallon of gas, and everything else go up, which went up even when we had minimum wage of $7.25 steady and no change, we need to be proactive, and we need to make companies pay in their fair share. And what that means is a fair tax rate for businesses, which is higher, and a fair wage for employees. If you're going to employ someone, you do not have the luxury of passing on their food bill to the state. I'm sorry. If you want to have a business, you need to pay a living wage. Anything else is a handout to that business that doesn't that just says, "Oh, it's okay. The state will pay for food stamps or health care or whatever." I think we have to be proactive in that and require that of the private sector, and that will help at least keep pace with the inflation that's going to happen no matter what.
Yeah, it's just going to be interesting to see how it plays out. So what else are you passionate about that may not be on your platform, on your page, but something you're looking into with your state and hoping to change?
I kind of wear it on my sleeve. I'm pretty much into exactly what I put on there, but I suppose I'm currently researching more about education. what we need to do there. See, Michigan has an average salary for teachers of $60,000, so we're not by any means the worst. It's actually quite amazing, despite having Betsy DeVos from here. But I think we need to look at how we're sending money to schools. We have an outdated formula, the same as Act 51, that just, again, throws buckets of money at things, throws $80 million at third grade reading levels, and we saw in Michigan those reading levels go down. That is just counterproductive. It seems to be targeting communities that need the most help, and why. Ask why. Are they health concerns? Are they family concerns? Are there so many people in poverty that parents can't get kids to school on time? I don't know, but let's look at those things. Let's have open-handed research. Say what's causing the issue. What can we do, and do something about it. So it's less teacher pay right now, although our state does like to mess with their pensions. And I want to see strong wages. I want to see strong pensions for teachers. I want to see strong community-led initiatives. So I want to see, frankly, less focus on the standardized tests, more on these are the goals. How do you get there? That's fine. Teachers can be creative. Students need creative solutions. I get all of that. Let teachers be flexible in how they teach. Just make sure they get those metrics and test when we need to, because I still want some metric to test, but I just don't think we should be so focused on making sure that kids know how to fill out a bubble sheet. That's where I'm at with that. So,
absolutely. If there's and before I forget, when is your primary? What is the date?
Oh, I don't have a primary opponent at this point, but it's August 6th or something. See,
Are you serious?
Yeah, I have no primary opponent at this point. The cutoff's the 24th, so thoughts and prayers.
Oh my gosh, I've never had a candidate in that position. That's kind of awesome.
I'm going against 2 Republicans, and if they're watching, hi.
I kind of doubt they'd like me. I don't know if they're tuning in here.
Somebody's got to get opposition information on me. Call me names.
Oh my gosh. What if you want to leave a final thought with the viewers, what do you want to leave them with so that they would check out your website or recommend you to people in Michigan?
Okay. I'm actually going to tell people why you might want to, even if you don't live in Michigan, support me, and why you want to maybe share me with your friends and relatives who are in Michigan. My plan is partly, once elected, it's a 4-year term. We have 83 counties, to go county to county and talk to people, Republican, Democrat, establishment. I don't care who your representative is. I only care, will they vote for the agenda that we want? So you've got Bernie. I'm going to use an analogy. You've got Bernie going around state to state, talking to people, telling us, individual representatives, to get on the mission. That's what I'll do at the state level. I have a serious plan to tackle income inequality, to tackle healthcare, prison reform. I'm ready to get to work, and I'm around the state in my own district as well. Of course, meet with people a lot, but I want to take that time and go around and get other people interested in telling their representatives in their districts in Michigan what they want their representatives to vote for. I will focus on teaching people how to write a bill if we want to do that. I believe in open source. For my techie friends, open source Open source policy making. If you have an idea for a bill, you should be able to send it to your rep and have them submit, or ask them to submit it into committee and things like that, because these are good ideas. And I want people's good ideas. I want them to be able to go to their rep and give them a bill already pre-made if possible. I want them to at least tell their reps what they want. I don't want to play politics with other politicians and try to make deals. If you'll vote with me on this, I'll vote with you on that. I don't care. I want to vote on things that are going to help Michiganders and that'll help other states, because other states will see our example and want to follow it, and get people to get on their state representatives, because state politics isn't sexy, but it's important. So,
absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Jason. I appreciate it. We wish you the best of luck, of course. Mark Bignell just said, I think he said August 8th. Let me see. I'm pretty sure that's what he said. August 7th.
That's the one. Yeah, I said 6 or 7. I forget which the Tuesday was.
Sweet. Okay, well, thank you once more. You're amazing, and thank you guys for watching. Friday, I have Mr. Johnny. I call him Alakazam because he's kind of like a magician. He's in the comments, and he is we have a good banter. We kind of are in between wanting to strangle each other and wanting to give each other a hug. So it should be interesting. He commented. Oh, okay. You just said, hey. Oh, Jason, you look so different. Oh, okay. All right. Thank you guys for watching again. And thank you, Jason. Have a good night, everyone.
Thank you.